Hello, it's me, Ollie Oodlesnob. I definitely have been posting regularly, and there hasn't been any noticeable gap since I last posted my last video, so please don't bring it up. Today, I'm going to be redesigning these two old OCs of mine. I made them originally in 2021, and I'm gonna make them some new rough sheets. I originally did this for Art Fight. As you can tell, I'm a little late, but it's okay because I've been wanting to redesign them anyway for a while and rethink their lore because their lore was kind of a mess and I've been wanting to clean it up, so that's what we're doing. Before we start, if you like this video or any of my videos, please like and subscribe. I would really appreciate it, and this is my first ever art video, so if you have any thoughts or tips, please feel free to comment them down below because I would love to hear them. Okay, that's it. We're doing the redesigns now. As I said, I made these characters originally in 2021, and their names are Bonnie and Dirge. And also they come from the post-apocalypse. They're actually not the main characters of their story, but there really wasn't much of a story to begin with, so that kind of doesn't matter. When I made them, I was experimenting with a bit of a simpler style, and I wanted to incorporate thick black line art, flat, desaturated colors, and have each character have like a big black shape of some kind in their design. And I think that I sort of achieved what I was going for, but I don't know. I do think that the desaturated colors and dark shapes like give off a bit of a post-apocalyptic feel, but I just overall don't think their designs were very effective, and that is in part because I didn't really understand the characters or think about them very much. Post-apocalypse was as far as I ever got with the setting and story, and I didn't even decide what the apocalypse was, so I didn't even do that like very fully. I pretty much just wanted to draw a bunch of characters, and that's what I did. Anyway, this is Dirge. Originally, Dirge was 10 years old, grumpy, and cursed to never sleep, and also his best friend was a ghost. I'm actually keeping all of these elements because I don't think that they're that bad on their own. It's just that I never put that much thought into them or how they play into a larger story. Side note, these likes and dislikes charts on character sheets used to have the biggest chokehold on me, but the stuff I put on them was never relevant or interesting, so I have no idea why I felt like every character I made needed one. I'll get more into their dynamic and the story when I'm redrawing the comic at the end, but for now I actually wrote a little edgy backstory excerpt for Dirge, so I'm gonna force you to listen to it. Pre-apocalypse, in a small town in New Hampshire, a boy was born. His name was Dorian Cook, and he didn't have any friends, but if he did have any, they would have called him Dirge. He lived far from town, and his parents kept him fairly isolated from other people, preferring him to stay close to home. He used to be allowed out more, but after his little sister passed away in a freak accident, his mom insisted on keeping a close eye on him. For years after his sister died, Dirge frequently had night terrors about the accident. He hadn't been there when it had happened, but he'd heard talk, and it was enough to make his mind wander. One day, just before the fire started, Dirge awoke from another terrible nightmare, sweating and crying. Desperately, he wished he could just stop sleeping altogether. Maybe then he would finally be able to escape from the dreams. As soon as the plea left his mouth, he felt a deep cold wash over his entire body, as if he had fallen into a frozen lake. A voice, eerily similar to his sister's, whispered something in his ear. He couldn't quite understand, but it didn't really matter, because the next day, ash began to rain from the sky, and his parents were crushed beneath the crumbling wreckage of his house. It was all he could do to make it to the cellar just a ways off the property. That night, eyes smarting and skin aching with burns, he found slumber did not come for him, nor any night thereafter. So that's Dirge. He's emo, he's angsty, I don't know what to say. You know how it is. It's the apocalypse, it's rough out here. Now let's move on to Bonnie. Bonnie is a ghost. She's always been a ghost, and a ghost she will stay. Actually, the core traits of both of these characters are saying pretty much the same. I just really wanted to give them a bit more care and backstory as opposed to just a list of one-dimensional personality traits like they had before. Originally, Bonnie was 11 years old and very silly and energetic to contrast Dirge's constant grumpy, tired demeanor. And I am keeping that because I think it's very cute. She loves to annoy him, and I think that's awesome. She also absolutely loves being a ghost. She always felt a little different when she was alive. Being a ghost just feels so much more natural to her. Unfortunately, the longer you're a ghost, the more you lose touch with the things that made you human. Yes, I am obsessed with Noah from the Raven Cycle, if you know what I'm talking about. But basically, even though the world is bleak, Bonnie has no desire to pass on or anything of the sort. She just wants to hang out and have fun forever. She thinks being dead is way better than being alive, and surely that will play no part in the story. Surely not. She also loves to roller skate, which you will hear about now when I read her tragic backstory. I hope you're excited. Bonnie Wilson was born in a loft above a roller rink. Her parents owned the rink, and though they didn't make much, it was enough to keep the family afloat. The roller rink was situated pretty far away from the nearest town, but it became somewhat of a hotspot for cool teens who wanted to hang out somewhere other than the popular spots around town. Bonnie, neither cool nor a teen, also loved the rink. She grew up there and had been skating since she was old enough to walk, switching out her skates for larger sizes as she got older. She went to school in town, but she always had a hard time connecting with people. She wasn't really well liked, but she either didn't notice or didn't mind. All she needed was her rink. The winter after she turned 11, her parents had to go on a trip a few towns over in order to check on an old friend of theirs who was in bad health. They were reluctant to bring their daughter since they weren't quite sure how well their friend was and they didn't want to scare her. Though Bonnie was young and a bit weird, she wasn't a reckless kid, and her parents trusted her to stay home for a few days on her own and not get into any trouble. When they returned home days later, though, they found that their heater had broken, and Bonnie had lit the stove overnight in order to keep warm. However, there had been a leak in the gas line, and Bonnie had unfortunately passed away from carbon monoxide poisoning. Her parents, devastated, arranged for Bonnie to be buried just within the woods outside the rink and moved out as soon as they could. The rink was left slowly falling apart. People said it was haunted, swore if you went in alone at midnight you could hear the swishing of skates and the sound of a young girl laughing. Years later, it was torn down and a house was built where it stood, and in the backyard, just inside the tree line, a cellar was dug. And that's Bonnie all done. I think she's funny. I think she's silly. I like her a lot. Her design is pretty similar, but I just think she's so cute. So, in addition to the redesigns, I also wanted to redraw a bit of an old comic I made of these two, which I also did in 2021. Here's the original. Pause if you want to read it, which I do recommend you do because I actually like the dialogue in the older version better, which is only a little embarrassing for me. I actually only redrew the first half of this comic because I didn't have time to do the whole thing because I'm busy and I have things to do. But regardless, I do like how the page came out visually. But now to discuss their story and their dynamic. I think you can surmise from the little story bits that the cellar that Dirge was hiding out in for weeks or probably months after the apocalypse started is the same spot that Bonnie was buried in all those years ago, so they met in the cellar at some point while he was holed up down there. Bonnie had been a ghost since she died, but at first no one could really see or hear her, so she just had to watch as her parents grieved her and abandoned their home, which was awful, obviously. But after a time, she kind of just liked having the rink all to herself and being able to skate whenever she wanted. She didn't have to go out, go to school. And other kids never liked her anyway, so she didn't really care that no one could see her. Of course, she was devastated when the rink was torn down and ended up just going and hiding in her burial place. And with nothing to do, she kind of just got dimmer and weaker as time went on. Her soul was just kind of decaying with her body until Dirge showed up. So neither Bonnie or Dirge had ever really gotten along with kids their own age. They were both kind of like outcasts for different reasons, but they were also very reticent to interact with each other. Though Dirge's hesitation was probably more from the fact that she was a ghost, and she also would sometimes throw things at him to try and get him to leave her grave in the beginning, which he obviously couldn't do, considering the apocalypse. But over the months, they came to like each other, and Bonnie finally found something besides the rink that kind of gave her afterlife some kind of meaning. And Dirge had just lost everyone and everything he knew, so he kind of didn't have anything else. So what a beautiful pair. They become kind of hesitant friends in the cellar, and once they leave, they only grow closer. Eventually, they do meet up with the rest of the cast, who maybe I'll redesign them and rewrite them. If you want, let me know. So for Dirge's main motivations, he's really just desperate to stay alive, like even with all the stuff he's been through and all the things that are wrong with him. And at every turn, he just fights really hard against this world that is very obviously dying. Bonnie, on the other hand, she loves being dead. She thinks it's the best. She thinks everyone would be happier if they were dead. And I think she might secretly wish that Dirge was dead too. Firstly, so that he could you know, be happy like she is, but also so they could be best friends forever. And this could also escalate through the story. At this point, I don't think that she'd outright kill him, but I do think she'd want him to die, and, you know, who knows how far she'd go. Through their relationship, Dirge just becomes more and more attached to and really wholeheartedly trusting of Bonnie. She's not only his best friend, she's really all that he has. He's even very suspicious of the other companions in the story. So in his mind, it's really just him and Bonnie. And she knows that, and she knows about his desperation to stay alive, and so she, over time, has to grapple with that fact, as well as her growing wish that he would just hurry up and die so he can see how much easier life is after it ends. So that's really fun for me. I think it's fun. I think that's a cool idea, and that's kind of them. That's what I have. And I don't think it's groundbreaking or anything, but I do think that it is a step up from what they used to have. I think their designs are better. I like this comic page better, though it's quite different. And I just think they're silly. Feel free to let me know if you have any thoughts on their story or anything. Again, it's still subject to change if you know, put an idea down below. Maybe I'll put it in, I don't know. And again, if you want to see me redesign the other characters, I would be down. So just let me know. And again, if you liked the video, like and subscribe, please. Okay, that's it. Have a good day. Bye.